You're listening to Trigger Warnings. Challenging talk radio. What is radio? What is challenging talk radio? We hold radical empathy at our core. It is February 11th, 2017.
No, actually, it's February 12th.
No, I'm sorry. It's February 11th.
Okay, why is that?
Because what you just said is fake news. I'm Chris Smith.
Oh, excellent.
John Ross is on the line. And we move
a day late and $1 short, apparently.
That's right. Well, it's the time zone thing. I'm here in the high desert, in the top corner of the Colorado Hotel. John Ross is in the heart of American carnage, Chicago. And
I am in the capital of carnage.
The capital of carnage? Seriously, in your neighborhood, does crime feel ugly? Is it bad?
No, because all the cops in Chicago live in my neighborhood.
Oh, really?
I live in a neighborhood where cops and firefighters live because it's right on the edge of the city, and all city employees have to live in the city limits. So they tend to live in neighborhoods like mine, which do not have a lot of crime and which are, very middle class and have parks and good schools and all that stuff. So no, we do not have a lot of crime in my neighborhood, except for kids occasionally leaving beer cans by the case in the lawn, or drug paraphernalia burying in strange places.
How recently did you find something like that in your front yard?
Not in the front. It's a regular occurrence, actually. We tend to have a lot of neighborhood kids, especially in the warm weather months, because I live. My house is adjacent to an alley that separates my house from the big parish in the area, in the neighborhood. So it tends to be a thoroughfare in the summer, and a lot of kids, and during the warmer months, especially. So a lot of kids kind of use it as a thoroughfare. They leave beer cans in the trees. Sometimes they bury drug paraphernalia. They think they're hiding it, but Big Brother is always watching because we have a neighborhood full of cops and firefighters. So.
Do you lock your dumpster?
We do not lock our dumpster. No.
I mean, here in the high desert, I'm in a community that locks their dumpsters. And I know that the dump in Vermont, of course they lock the place.
Oh, I don't know about the place where the dumpsters live. We do not do that with our. As far as I know, we don't do that. But
well, you're listening to Trigger Warnings. Today's theme is: who are the people in your neighborhood? The people that you meet each day. We never really have a theme. What's that?
The people on the street.
That's right. There's some of the people in your neighborhood. And it's interesting to hear that your neighborhood is a hotbed of law enforcement residential settlement, which therefore keeps it safe.
We have cops and firefighters have squatters' rights in my neighborhood.
I see. So...
But however, I can say, this is a little bit off topic, but I can say, having been, because their kids go to school with my kid, and I have been to charity events and neighborhood things with them, I can tell you that, at least from my anecdotal observation, first of all, these cops are overwhelmingly white men, and that I can certainly see, based on my connections and discussions with some of them, why a lot of people in Black communities don't think that some police officers respect them or are trustworthy, because a lot of these folks, I'm not giving percentages, but some of them I have met clearly speak ill of many of the people whose neighborhoods they serve. And so I can certainly see why those those connections or those disconnections between law enforcement and communities, especially communities of color, exist. I can certainly see where going into the game there is not a level of mutual trust or respect. You can definitely see it, and you can understand it. I'm not saying it's right, but you kind of see where some of this comes from.
Yeah, do law enforcement officials, I mean, is it better for them to reside in the communities they serve? I think that's an interesting question. Is it better?
Well,
Can't make it policy, but.
Well, the thing is that, it's already somewhat, it's not unusual for municipalities to require their employees to live within their boundaries. That's not unusual. We do it here, and as a result, you have a lot of public employees who live in neighborhoods like mine, which are right on one of the edges of. There are a lot of edges of the city, but we're on the northwest side of the city. We're very close to. Our neighborhood looks suburban. Houses have good sized lots, and there are parks and forests and all that stuff. So clearly, the degree of community policing that you would hope for is just not there. And of course, a lot of people who live in communities like mine are dispatched to patrol and protect areas that are disparate in distance and disposition to themselves. So you can see that. I think the city tries, but we have a difficult situation here, and we could spend hours talking about it.
Let's do that. Let's spend hours talking about law enforcement and residential policies. No, I think there's a good question. Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe in your community? And John, we're getting a sense from you. I'm a transplant. I'm sitting in a community in the high desert that is a lock your dumpster kind of town. And that's both to keep people from tossing their garbage in there for free, but also to keep others from digging through and trying to, scavenge for whatever they can. A lock your dumpster kind of town is a different kind of town than towns that I've lived in New England. Do I feel?
Is that because there's a lot of there are legalized marijuana out there, and some of the refuse is worth something, or people think it's worth something? Is that something to do with it?
If you take a cardboard box that was living in a dispensary for the last year and a half and lick the cardboard to catch a buzz, will that be successful? Or could you huff gasoline for the same effect? I'm not sure. We're onto a level of, seeking substance use and abuse that is beyond my pale. For some reason, this community in the high desert, southeastern Colorado, there are more homeless people here than other communities I'm used to. But then again, the climate allows you to sleep in your car and not freeze to death most nights. So, and during the day, it gets up into the 60s and 70s. So, I don't know. Do you feel safe? And I'm not sure if I feel 100% safe anywhere. Certainly not in Vermont. And certainly not, I don't know, if I walked around here with my banjo strapped to my back, I'd give it a 1 in 10 chance that somebody's going to bother me and try to apprehend my banjo so they can take it and turn it into cash. And that 1 in 10 chance has reminded me that I always felt that way in Atlantic City.
Well, I think that what you're referring to, certainly in Vermont, at least this is statistically. I don't know whether it's anecdotal in your case, but statistically, what we're talking about is to some degree the rampant spread of opioid abuse and opioid and that kind of drug trade and drug use to rural and exurban and suburban communities. This is a major phenomenon. It's a major public health issue. Of course, your governor, was it last year or the year before, devoted his whole State of the State address to the opioid abuse in Vermont, opioid abuse crisis in Vermont. It is a very, very significant public health crisis, and it has taken over many communities, and it's very consistent with economic immobility. It's rural America, it's Appalachia, it's small town, declining manufacturing, industrial communities. The New York, I think the Washington Post did a huge article on this last fall, or a whole series of them, about one town in rural Colorado. I don't know which town it was, and just the incredible incidence of opioid deaths and suicides among white people. Right. So this is it is now a multiracial phenomenon. And in fact, I just saw a headline that in Louisville, Kentucky alone, I believe in the last 36 hours there have been 52 overdose calls. What you're talking about in rural Colorado and Vermont and in other places that have been viewed traditionally as pristine, clean air, American living, very much now affected by the same kinds of things we associate with places like the carnage capital of America, where I live.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. The opiate abuse and opioid abuse in rural American towns is very, very much changing the culture of those towns and putting a lot of lives at risk. And yes, Peter Shumlin, former governor of Vermont, did devote his State of the State address to discussing opioid abuse, and maybe he felt like he had to because Rolling Stone had just run a picture of a maple syrup can of a lumberjack-looking guy shooting up in the middle of the snowy woods. So I don't know if he had many other options, and I don't know what the heck he did or didn't do. I know that I'm still waiting for the broadband that he promised many years ago, and I know that this week in the headlines, Maple Leaf Farm in Underhill, Vermont, said to be like one of the best treatment centers around for opiate abuse, and one place where a lot of people get their Suboxone and such. Well, they shut down temporarily last week to reorganize or something, which caused a major stir. And yesterday it was announced, it was reported by WCAX that they will not be reopening. I have no idea. I mean, I'm thousands of miles away, so I'm looking at this from afar. But I knew of the place, and I knew people who had made use of it, and I have no idea. And what it points to, both there and where I sit now, is there's no systematic approach to the opiate crisis. I really don't feel like there is. There's not a systematic approach. It's not like any state is approaching it as the public health issue that it is. I mean, that's in my experience. What do you think?
Well, I mean, it's clearly multifaceted and has multiple causes. For example, here in the carnage capital of America, I met a couple months ago. I had a conversation with a woman who's a trauma nurse at Cook County Hospital. And she, we were talking about, and she said that one of the sources of the opioid abuse, and this is multifaceted, and this is just one piece of it, is that for some reason we in America feel like we have an inalienable right not to feel pain. She said, so you get a lot of people who get surgery, or they're treated for something, whether it's the emergency room or a routine surgery or not a routine surgery. And typically you would be sent home from the hospital or from a doctor's office with maybe 24 to 48 hours of pain medication. But now people insist on more than that from their doctors. And then, of course, and we've seen this in celebrity death, but it happens with everyday people in the thousands every year. we see people becoming addicted to those and demanding of their doctors that they have more pain medication because they think they have the right, they have this expectation that they shouldn't have a lot of pain. And doctors all too often are willing to go along with that. So that's one key thing. And then the other thing she said is that including in those same medicine cabinets, the people who have become, who don't want to experience pain and want medicine of some sort or some substance to treat or prevent that, of course, they leave those in their medicine chest, and their kids have access to them. And so she said, just that one bit, how we construct as a society pain, and whether we think we should have to experience it at all. Just that one little piece, not traders, not people standing on street corners and selling stuff. Just stuff that comes legally, legitimately through prescriptions written by medical people. That is a huge part of this epidemic.
Well,
And,
I think you're right in what you say about pain, but I think that there's a larger umbrella of American escapism that also has some ignorance at its heart. I mean, if you choose to use Oxycontin recreationally, you're in it for the kicks. I would assume no one is setting out to say, I'd like to start my opiate addiction now, knowing that this legal pharmaceutical will lead to illegal street drugs, or knowing that it could. No one says that. Everybody, I'm going to drink this and have a eat this pill and have a Bud Light and be out of my mind. I think you can't overestimate the escapism that comes at the heart of substance use, especially recreational substance use. As far as, why do we have these things on the market that we didn't 30 years ago? That's a good question. And the conspiracy theorist in me says that 30 years ago, some pharmaceutical exec said, if we build it, they will numb. Hey, thank you.
Hey, that clearly is you're right. That is clearly a component of this. And again, this is the legal side of the trade. It's not even the illegal side. It's not even the undercurrent of this. This is just straight out and out, the basic practice of medicine. And this is clearly, you're clearly right. And psychiatrists, mental health people will validate it because many of them are part of the problem. I mean, it's the same thing with antidepressants and behavioral drugs. We do not that they don't work for many people, not that they're inefficient, but they do. It does tend to be the first recourse or the first line of defense many physicians practice, and part of that is keeping patients happy, and part of that is the way our health system works. You do often what you get paid for, and because you don't have a lot of time, in many cases with patients, to earn that living, it's a lot cheaper in terms of time and labor to give people a medicine for pain, for psychological pain, than it is to talk to them, and it becomes much easier, for patients. At least there's a quick fix. You feel the response when you're taking medication if it works. But of course, we know that a lot of antipsychotics and antidepressants not only don't relieve psychosis and depression, but they also contribute to suicidality and all that. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It is. I think the inalienable right not to feel or experience pain or undue pain applies to invisible wounds, psychological wounds as well as physical ones. And I think that's very much a lot of what we're seeing here. And again, and I've said this before, but that public health and politics and policy go very, very much hand in hand. If you look at where the huge epidemics of opioid abuse and depression, suicide, early mortality, morbidity among white people come from. Look at the areas that both voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump and who shifted their vote from Democrat in 2008, 2012 to Republican in 2016. It's not that they're voting for him because he's friendly to drug addicts. I'm not saying that. It's that those economic, social, cultural variables go hand in hand with political attitudes and behaviors, and that's we're seeing that. Again, that is not a slap at the people to whom that applies, the people in Appalachia, rural America, or to Donald Trump on this point.
Wait. What doesn't apply? What is the statement again about the
no,
Appalachians?
it's not a personal. It's not a slap at anybody. It's just it is a very strong correlation in terms of social, cultural, and political response, voting differently and voting for Trump to economic situations that are accompanied by, medical and psychological issues. I mean, so that's where these data on, suicide, attempted suicide, opioid abuse, et cetera, really correlate very strongly with voting behavior because people feel very dislocated, not listened to, and that's how they're behaving in politically. So, again, we could do hours on that too.
All right. Would you like a quiz question? It's a fill.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a fill in the blank, and it will bring us to a terminus on this very dark road we're going down. Okay.
I love terminus.
Well, this is a long quote, okay? And the blank that you're going to fill in the word with comes early in the quote.
Okay.
And blank will overcome all evil except ignorance, which is the condition of humanity, and, like the ambient air, fills the space between the various sorts and conditions of men, which breeds hatred, fear, and contempt between the masses of mankind, and puts on men's lips, on their innocent lips, words that are thoughtless and vain. The beginning of the quote again, your fill in the blank, and blank will overcome all evil except ignorance, which is the condition of humanity, ...
It's either love, hope, or oxycontin.
No, it's something that everybody in America agrees we need. It is a bipartisan issue, and blank will overcome all evil except ignorance.
Hope, love, charity.
No. You don't know who this quote is from. Your answer is work. Work.
Oh.
Work will overcome all evil except ignorance, which is the condition of humanity. Now, who do you think said that?
Well, it's either Marx or Andrew Carnegie.
1912.
1912. Well, it could have been William Howard Taft.
I am thrilled to have found the Norton Critical Edition of Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. So this comes from his 1912, just notes. But I love that. Work will overcome all evil except ignorance, blah, blah, blah. And yes, maybe ignorance is the condition of humanity, but work? You mean like a CCC kind of work? You mean like give people something to do kind of work? I love that idea.
Well, and work could be, it doesn't have to be work for pay or labor. It could be, work for yourself, work for the sake of having something to do, not necessarily income-producing work. It's a very good quote, even though it did not come from William Howard Taft.
No, Joseph Conrad. So, speaking of work, let's take on that Michael Paulson article John brings to the table here on Trigger Warnings Challenging Talk Radio. What is radio? What is radical empathy? I'm Chris Smith. John Ross is on the line. And, geez, we're halfway through the show. We're talking about opiates.
So we are skipping China and going right to, let me find that article.
Well, I like work. That's what this
yes,
is.
It is. So this is an article. I am going to be, as the president would say, failing by a fake news New York Times this week. This is an article from, as you said, Michael Paulson on the 5th. The title is On Stage, Rapidly Reacting to the Dawn of the Trump Era. And it's an article about the playwright Robert Schenken. Robert Schenken has won a Pulitzer Prize and a Tony Award, so he's not some flash in the pan. His Tony Award came in 2014 for All the Way, which is I believe on Broadway, it was a one-man show about Lyndon Johnson's first year or so of the presidency and his passage of the Civil Rights Act, which HBO turned into an incredible film with starring the same man who played LBJ on Broadway, Bryan Cranston. Immediately after the election, Mr. Schenken was so angry about the result and the dawn of the Trump era, as the article puts it, that in a week, in a white hot fury, he said, he wrote a play called Building the Wall. And what's interesting about it is, in the business of theater and performing arts, this play has already received commitments for production from 5 theaters around the United States, all over the country: Denver, Boston, New York, Los Angeles. And so this is an astounding kind of concept to production story, that a play would be written in November and within mere weeks receive commitments from major theaters around the country without stage reading, without a lot of the peer review that goes into a lot of theater work. Schenken, by the way, just so you know, is also the screenwriter of Hacksaw Ridge, the Oscar-nominated Mel Gibson film. So, I mean, Schenken doesn't just hang out with left-wingers. I mean, he's doing – Mel Gibson hires him to write a screenplay about a film that's apparently very good. So that's very interesting. It's going to be staged in L.A., Denver, Silver Spring, Maryland, Tucson, I believe. Santa Fe, New Mexico. But it's already getting touring company requests. It's requests from Britain and Canada. And it was interesting, a couple of weeks ago, you threw in a question about the reprise of 1984 in London, coming to New York about the same time that this play, that the Building the Wall play, Schenken, will premiere at the end of June. I'm asking you what you think this says about the creative community and the arts community, and its response to what it sees as a real traumatic political action, the election of Donald Trump, and the possible end of federal support for the arts, because the NEA and the NEH.
Oh yeah, it's toast. It's toast. But wait,
well,
I mean, let's pretend like it's toast, okay? Let's pretend that the arts are going to be as grassroots as the traveling minstrels in the Middle Ages, roaming from town to town, post-internet, speaking in song, telling us stories about what's happening in D.C. Let's pretend that the arts are going to go that far backwards into a grassroots movement, because maybe art can't officially be art without being acknowledged by the people. What we called folk art in the 20th century and became all the rage really meant that it was art being made by people who were not necessarily getting paid to make it. That becomes more interesting. I think that in the last paragraph of this Michael Paulson article from the New York Times, There's a
Mm-hmm.
quote from Ari Edelson, who's an artistic director who supported the development of the play that we're speaking about, Building the Wall. And the quote is, I think a lot of theater artists have been very shaken and also awoken by the events in November and are asking, quote, am I creating work that's addressing the questions we should be asking each other? And even better is, am I communicating with as many of my fellow Americans as I can? Ever since Samuel Beckett put the theater into trash cans on stage, we've been wrapped in a postmodernism, which is all well and good and well and necessary and well, and maybe is dead. I'm wondering if that's dead now. We don't have time to sit around in trash cans. We don't have time for navel gazing from the theater. And that's no offense to anybody who's been involved in it, but that's to say that the theater could be used as the populist instrument that it could be, right? Especially, I mean, big theater. Yes, there's going to be this massive production of 1984 at the Hudson Theater, but this play, Building the Wall, it took a week. And you mentioned 5 different theaters have signed on to it, including the Adobe Rose in Santa Fe. I draw your attention to that because they're putting on a new play festival. Well, that is, just hand us a play, a 10-minute play. The submission date is March 15. It must be 10 minutes or less. It must be 4 characters or fewer. It must be it must be 10 minutes or less, 4 characters or fewer, take place in one setting with as few set and furniture requirements as possible, the morning after whatever election you find most compelling. Here are a few possibilities. High school students in a cafe the morning after a school council election, the morning after Hitler's election in Germany, 1933, the morning after the Truman Dewey election in 48, or, yes, the morning after Trump's victory. They don't even ask you for a $10 bill, simply for a cover page and a 10-minute play. Winners will be chosen and announced, and these plays will be produced in June. This is different populist theater than what we considered theater. This is different than even what Mike Pence went to see when he went to see Hamilton.
You know, I was just thinking about the Mike Pence situation. I mean, his reaction, at least publicly, to, the advocacy that came from the cast, which broke through the fourth wall, right, in its curtain call, and Trump wasn't even there, is illustrative. Mike Pence goes in public and knows that in a place like Midtown Manhattan, the theater district, he's not going to be a very popular guy, but he doesn't care. It's an important piece of theater. It's an important cultural event. It has significance on all levels. It's entertaining, etc. He goes. He said, "Okay, I'm on the public stage." I mean, politics is theater too, and his response to that, call out from the cast was very much in the traditional classical theater tradition of politics. We stand there, we take it. It's okay. We get it. They have a role to play. I have a role to play. Whereas Trump, who wasn't even there, goes crybaby off about how his vice president wasn't treated well. Pence didn't act like he wasn't treated well. So it's kind of theater as creative event, as public forum, versus theater as reality show. And, we're seeing a lot of that. And of course, a lot of the great works of theater and art, as this article mentions and others I've thought of apply, have taken historical and political events and turned them into art. The Crucible, right, is the McCarthy era spun into a play about Salem witch trials. Steven Spielberg said that he produced Schindler's List when he did as a Jew because he thought that we weren't going to have any more Holocaust until he saw what was happening to the Muslims in Bosnia. And so he felt moved to reconstruct and reproduce that experience for people who didn't know about it. So I think it has always been such. I think there is a specific urgency now, even in the rebirth of Alec Baldwin's career as Donald Trump, and Melissa McCarthy doing an incredible version of the press secretary. These are responses deemed by those who are creating them culturally as necessary. And the thing that's interesting, and you certainly understand why people on the political and cultural right not only don't get this, but get upset about it, is because there isn't a lot of creative urgency on the right to create culture that responds to what it sees as the injustice of the so-called mainstream. They don't get mad; they get even, so to speak. And a lot of that is because the culture is theater, especially, is not a very profitable enterprise.
So wait a minute.
Are
you saying the left are the culture keepers?
In terms of capital C culture that we're talking about here, I think in terms of by and large owning and distributing the means of production, yeah, I think they do.
Can you name a outspoken conservative person that could have done what Lady Gaga did at the Super Bowl and bring America together?
There might be a country singer or two who could do that. And the great thing about what Gaga did was that she kind of hinted that she was going to do something naughty and political. And then the political statement she made was not being overtly political, but being traditionally patriotic. So, in that sense, I mean, she did "Born This Way," which is clearly a song about being not heterosexual or not being traditionally heterosexual. So, was that a political statement just singing that song, or is it, I got a 12-minute gig, people know the song? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I think it's very interesting, and I think, I think it's great if there are people on the right. I mean, Mel Gibson has tried to do this culturally on behalf of the right with the what was the movie, the Jesus movie he made?
Yes. I got a question for you. I speculated on my Facebook this week. No one would answer me. But if Clint Eastwood had not had that like failure moment with the chair, remember, I'm going to talk to Obama and here's an empty chair. That was an epic fail. If that hadn't happened, could we have had President Eastwood?
No, we could have had President Romney. No, we wouldn't.
No, I mean, why not? What could have stopped Clint Eastwood from running and winning the base the way this maniac has?
Well, one, Clint Eastwood is in his 80s.
Does that? I don't see how that would eliminate him from being recognized by the base. That's not a deal breaker.
No, I don't think. I think the interesting thing about Clint Eastwood is that he did that, and it's like liberals who really like his films and what he says in them, or just the films that he's made, and as a director more so than an actor, they kind of gave him a free pass. They said, okay, well, he's still Clint Eastwood. He's still a great actor and director. We don't care if he's a Republican. It's okay.
Dude.
Barbra Streisand has encountered this when she's gotten up at her concerts. And Barbra Streisand, because of her political activism and her bubble, thinks that her whole audience is liberals and left-wingers. And she told the story of surveying her audience at one of her performances. And when she realized that her audience was about 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans, she said, oh, okay. Right? So, I think that that people who can afford to support the arts, pay for tickets, make contributions to theater companies and opera companies and symphonies, et cetera, who are people of the 1%, who might be Republican or conservative, even in big cities. I think they are able to and are very comfortable separating their political views from culture. They support the arts. They do these things. They don't necessarily see those as political statements. And I think they can, and maybe even Mike Pence, at least in his public behavior, falls into that category. Look, Hamilton is a phenomenon. It's a great, it's a great representation of an interpretation of American political history, of the Federalist Papers, which we are based on and which conservatives, hold in one hand with the Bible in the other. I can go and see this. I don't care if they hoot and heckle me. It's okay. I can hear. I think Mike Pence is pretty secure in his own skin, that he can do that, and that it doesn't have to be a political statement one way or another. That he goes, that he doesn't respond angrily to the cast, beseeching him to be an influence over his boss. I think we may over politicize a lot of things in art in terms of people who view them and take part in them and support them, as opposed to the people who necessarily create the art.
Yeah, I think work is going to come back. Work is going to make a renaissance. How much does it cost to work in the arts?
Well, it's not the most profitable undertaking.
How much does it cost me if I want to start making art? I mean, separate from my materials, I don't have to pay dues to a club. I don't have to go to a certain place. It can happen in any direction. It can happen digitally and virtually with no materials, or if I want to buy paints, or my 10-minute one-act play may be recognized by this culture in a different fashion than my witty poster board sign that I held above my head. I hope for a rebirth of work in the arts towards any end. Art for art's sake. I hate to say that, but I don't think you've seen the movie La La Land yet.
No, I have seen La La Land. I have not commented to you that I was not that keen on it, actually.
You were not that keen on it. I was very keen on it.
No.
I believe it to...
I know. In fact, we went and saw it the same day as you had raved about it. I mean, this is not a critique of you. And we can get into... I mean, I'm like, if you saw the Saturday Night Live sketch a couple weeks ago with Aziz Ansari in a police investigation room, being harassed by two detectives because he thought La La Land was good but not great, and they were giving him a hard time. That would be me. I thought it was good. I thought the opening scene with people jumping on cars on the freeway, I thought that was fantastic. But I don't think that either one of the stars is a leading lady or man for a musical.
That's the point. But that's the beauty of it.
After a while, I said I just couldn't. I don't know.
Yeah, but you didn't watch things like American Idol and think, shucks, I wish that was me.
I did not watch American Idol. That is correct.
That is why, and I didn't either, but I can recognize how shows like American Idol made musical performance a possibility for others than just the pros. And the chipping away at the big music business machine has led to the film La La Land, where you're right, neither of the leading people you would really think of as leading stars. It's not, Grace Kelly and Fred Astaire. They're simply not dashing leading types, and that's the beauty of it. That's where that's the implicit death of postmodernism. There, we are back to the common man and woman.
It works to me that they're not typecast if their passable at what they do. For example, the movie Chicago starred Catherine Zeta-Jones, who started out as a dancer and won an Academy Award for it. So we don't know her as a dancer, but she started out that way. And Renee Zellweger, who can't sing or dance a lick. And Renee Zellweger was really good in it. And again, she doesn't look like, she's not a leggy dancer. She doesn't look the part. But she did it, and she came across. I think of, like the Fabulous Baker Boys, Michelle Pfeiffer, who had never sung a note in her life, learned how to sing and do that part and do it really well and convincingly. I didn't see Emma Stone doing that. I after a while, I didn't really want to see Emma Stone on camera, and I wasn't too crazy about seeing Ryan Gosling either. So it's okay. I will put in my 2 cents for not only the best film I've seen all year, but the one that people really should be seeing nowadays, starting at the White House, which is Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures is an incredible story, not only because it's true and it's the story of, entrepreneurial Black women, fighting all the odds and using their brains and smarts to accomplish an important thing, but because it does speak to a time in our country, possibly the last time in our country, when we as Americans were all united, or most of us were united in one cause. And when you watch that film, you realize how important the space program was to American identity and, Cold War survival and superiority at that time in history. So I think it's easily the best film I've seen, and I've seen all the top contenders. I thought Fences was unbelievable, and Moonlight was really, really good. But I think if the Academy cares about being relevant at a time when it's not only being accused of not being relevant to society, but also not being relevant to what's going on in its own ranks in terms of artistic diversity, that's where they should go. Which would be perhaps a political statement, but I think it's an incredible film. Anyway, boy, we love getting off topic today, don't we?
We're very good at it. Who are the people in your neighborhood? What are the movies that you could go see? You know what? I mean, it's work, man. It's work. I want to go see, what is it, Hidden Figures?
Hidden Figures glorify good, hard brain work.
See?
Like really thinking and thinking and going against the grain. I mean, that what one of the lead, and the other thing that's amazing is that we didn't know about any of these people. And these people are historic figures. They are one of them has the Presidential Medal of Freedom and has a building at NASA named for her because of her work. But that we didn't know about these people. This is not Black history. This is American history. And and it's a shame that we have 28 days every year when we think about Black history. That's not Black history. That's American history. I mean, the people who were involved in this project and the people who worked and their families, they were wrapped up in the patriotism as Americans, even though they were working in a federal facility, top secret stuff in Virginia, and they didn't have a bathroom in their building because they were Black women.
Wow.
The idea that they were part of a whole in segregated 1961 America with every face around them but their own, white and male in one case, that they took this education and knowledge and used it as intelligence to find different ways of approaching problems and solving them and justifying, showing their work, not just using evidence, but actually showing how their interpretation of that evidence was going to be the determining factor in John Glenn being able to go around the earth. It's a shame John Glenn died about 6 weeks before that film came out. It really is, because he is portrayed in this and in every other, certainly The Right Stuff and other things that I've read about him, as a truly gracious and generous human being, and and soldier, as an astronaut. And astronauts were soldiers. They were they were taking rockets, they were taking weapons and going up into space in them. There's no two ways around that.
Right.
So I mean, again, it is worth seeing because of its historical relevance and not because it's Black History Month. Because I don't really think it's a movie about Black history.
Hidden Figures.
Anyway.
Hidden Figures. John's recommendation. I recommend everybody see La La Land. We could dig into this on our next program. Trigger warnings, challenging talk radio with radical empathy at its core. We'll wrap up this program with the quiz. I've got a quiz for you, John. Are you ready?
I cannot wait.
I am really enjoying writing quiz questions in the name of great American work, just something to do. So many of these are Who Said This? We'll start with one of those. Who said this? Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. Was it Charles Dickens, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Dr. Emmett Brown, or Pericles?
See, I was thinking Harry S. Truman. I was going back to my president. I don't know who Dr. Emmett S. Brown was.
Dr. Emmett Brown? Oh, John, grab him by the culture. It's Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future, and Back to the Future 2, and Back to the Future 3. He's the man that created the flux capacitor.
That would explain it.
Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you.
Well, that sounds like a Hillary quote. I'm going to go with Hillary.
No, the answer is Pericles, 430 BC.
Oh, come on. Pericles was just Hillary Clinton in drag.
Who said this? In politics, it is necessary either to betray one's country or the electorate. I prefer to betray the electorate. Wait
a minute. Let me see if I can guess and see if any of the multiple choice options is close. I prefer to betray the electorate. It's a choice between betraying whom, the electorate, and
in politics. In politics, it's either In politics, it is necessary either to betray one's country or the electorate. I prefer to betray the electorate. Your choices are Richard Nixon.
Okay,
Richard Nixon, Henry Kissinger, Charles de Gaulle, or Rand Paul.
Well, I'm going to go with Henry Kissinger because he's the only one who wasn't subject to the electorate.
No, the answer is Charles de Gaulle. Isn't that fun? Who said this? If his IQ slips any lower, we'll have to water him twice a day. Was that Molly Ivins about Donald Trump? Robert De Niro about Donald Trump? Donald Trump about Robert De Niro? Or Ron Paul?
Ron Paul about who?
On Twitter. Nobody's sure who he was talking about.
I think it's is Molly. I don't think Molly Ivins is still around, so I don't think it's Molly Ivins. It's De Niro talking about Trump before he recanted.
Tricky. See, the answer is Molly Ivins about Donald Trump, but you're right. She did die. This quote was actually about George W. Bush. But now it's about Donald Trump. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, that's not fair. No, you can't.
Yes, you can. We move on.
That's fake quiz. That was fake quiz.
Who said this? Political satire became obsolete when Henry Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
All right, let me try to guess this one.
Okay, but you don't take all day.
No, I'm going to go with somebody in the Dick Gregory arena. Somebody like Dick Gregory or somebody like him, or a Smothers brother. Am I close?
Ooh, here are your choices: George Carlin, Lily Tomlin, Tommy Smothers, or Tom Lehrer.
Wow.
And the quote again: political satire became obsolete when Henry Kissinger was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, that to me, I'm guessing that it was one of the lines that got the Smothers brothers knocked off the air. Oh, no, it was before. No, Kissinger, no, it wasn't. Forget it. It wasn't that. They were knocked off the air before Kissinger won the Nobel. Smothers, George Carlin.
No, Tom Lehrer. Isn't that tricky? It's so interesting.
And he said that from his little apartment in Cambridge, not at the piano. He was gone by then.
Right.
He had left academia and the stage because he was so fed up with the nuclear world. And he's still there in his little apartment in Cambridge, and he's still in his 80s entertains questions from young college students who've discovered his work and are bemused and amazed at its brilliance and creativity.
We should invite him on this. We should invite him on this program.
You know what? That would be like one of the highlights of my life, because I think Tom Lehrer is so brilliant. And wow, that would be great. Wouldn't that be great to have him on?
I think we can make that happen. Let's get through this quiz and we'll move on with our lives, and I'll send an email about that.
I think we should invite Henry Kissinger on the show.
Ooh, I like that idea. I could write a quiz for him. Here you go. Who said this? If I had a choice of making lots of money or imparting lots of knowledge, I think I'd be as happy to impart knowledge as to make money. Was that Dr. Jane Sanders, Dr. Ben Carson, Dr. Alex Trebek, or Dr. President Sir Trump?
Okay, you have given two of them honorary PhDs. I don't like that.
If I had a choice of making lots of money or imparting lots of knowledge, I think I'd be as happy to impart knowledge as to make money.
Okay, well, it's not Trump, because he would never use the word impart. So that leaves Ben Carson.
So it's Jane Sanders, Ben Carson, Alex Trebek, or Dr. President Trump.
I think it's the non-PhD Alex Trebek.
No, it is actually Donald Trump.
No, because Donald Trump
would never. It is.
He would never say in part.
No, he did.
I don't believe it.
The Ninth Circuit noted, quote, as the recent Ponzi scheme scandals involving one-time financial luminaries like Bernie Madoff and Alan Stanford demonstrate, victims of con artists often sing the praises of their victimizers until the moment they realize they have been fleeced. What case was the Ninth Circuit talking about? Was it A, a 2014 case related to Jordan Belfort? B, a 2013 case related to Trump University? C, a 2012 case related to Purdue Pharma's distribution of OxyContin? Or D, a 2011 case related to detainees at Guantanamo Bay?
Trump University.
Yes.
That was a leading. You gave that one away.
I did. I had to throw that in. This one's hard. The theme song of the next 4 years is A, Born to be Wild, B, Born in the USA, or C, Born Free.
Well, I don't think it's any of them, because Bruce Springsteen will sue. But Reagan used Born in the USA and didn't even realize it was an anti-American song.
Right.
So I will go with Born in the USA, because Trump would like pissing off Bruce Springsteen.
Who said, quote, a nation without...
Was it right? Was I right? Wait,
You know what?
right?
That was the short answer. So there's no wrong answer to that one.
Why make it multiple choice?
Well, you do get multiple choice, but see, it's fake quiz. Who said a nation without borders is not a nation? Was it
Donald?
Yes, it was Donald Trump. We'll move
Trump.
on from there. Who proposed the name, quote, His Highness the President of the United States of America and Protector of their Liberties?
George Washington.
Was it A, the Senate in 1787, B, the House in 1887, C, David Rockefeller in 1907, or D, Sean Spicer?
Well, then it was 1780. It was the Senate in 1780.
That's correct. That's correct.
It was I thought it was from George Washington. George said, "Well, I like the title, but on second thought, let's not go with that."
All right, there are two more in this week's quiz. Kellyanne Conway is...
Oh, God, we forgot about her.
A, kind of like Ringo Starr, right place, right time, along for the ride. B, Ann Coulter in disguise, trying to play it cool into the base. C, one of the lizard people like the Clintons. Or D, the next Sarah Palin.
Well, I personally, even though I'm really disappointed in her, she's not the next Sarah Palin, because Kellyanne Conway is very intelligent. She's just misguided right now. She might be a lizard person, but if you told her that meant she was like a Clinton, then she wouldn't do it. She could be Ann Coulter in drag, although Ann Coulter really wears provocative clothes. Although Kellyanne sometimes wears provocative clothes. What was the first choice? This is
kind of like Ringo Starr, right place, right time, and along for the ride.
Yeah, I would go with that one.
Yes, the answer is A and B and possibly C. Ringo, Ann Coulter, and maybe a lizard person. All right, and your final question for this week's quiz.
I'm so excited.
Which of these is not a part of a real tweet from the rogue White House POTUS staff account? Which of these is not part of a real tweet from the rogue White House staff?
There is a rogue White House Twitter account?
Yes, there is a rogue. You're not. Oh, John, you didn't want to admit that to our listenership, but yes.
No, I get tweets from lots of people. I just did not get. I am not on the Twitter feed for the rogue White House.
Oh, it's lovely. I've got 4 exact quotes for you. Which one of these is not real from that account? A, quote, theory is that POTUS striking back at attempts to manage him. B, round of face palms are the reaction to POTUS repeating murder rate lie. C, Spicer unhappy that he's been, quote, set up for failure, quote. POTUS furious that one of his, quote, men, quote, portrayed by woman, says it looks weak. Or D, POTUS saying he will be the Tom Brady of presidents. Which of those is not a real tweet from the rogue White House staff account?
Well, I think the Spicer one is accurate because the reports were coming out that somebody was telling Trump that Spicer was they're trying to undercut Spicer and Priebus together because Priebus recommended Spicer for the job. So I think that one's accurate. The last one, I believe, is not. Although it sounds real, it is not. It is not real.
POTUS saying he will be the Tom Brady of presidents. You don't think that's true?
I think it's entirely possible, but I don't. But I think POTUS would have put that on his own Twitter feed because he puts other things in that category on his Twitter feed.
Well, the joke's on you. They're all real. They're all part of tweets sent from the White House rogue White House staff account. They're all real, John. It was more fake quiz.
Why are you? But that's not fair. You're misleading me. I'm taking this quiz very seriously. I had 6 in a row right at one point.
Where can I find more information on fairness in life? Can you direct me to
fairness in life?
Fairness.
What?
I'd like to understand, is life fair? You're telling me that what just happened isn't fair. I'd like more clarification as to how and where I can find fairness.
Yes, in fact, here is somebody named Oliver Emberton, who has his own blog, oliveremberton.com, and here's his headline blog post from November 2014. The problem isn't that your life is unfair, it's your broken idea of fairness. And it does remind me of one of the great George Carlin one-liners, which was when he's going through his free-range rants about stupid things people say. When he says, people are saying, I'm not getting my needs met. My needs aren't being met. And he says, shut up, get some new needs.
Nice. There you go.
There are no, he gets upset about the innocent victims of this. There are no innocent victims. You're on this earth. You're not innocent. You're a victim. Too bad. Shut up. Stop the blame.
Wow.
I think that's it.
That's it? The idea that there are no innocent victims and I mean...
No innocent victims. Right.
Wow. All right. Well, tune in next time.
We're not looking for fairness. We're not looking for fairness. We're looking for justice. That's the thing. And I do think, per our discussion today, that we should have, and we could do it as long as we do it one of the next 2 weeks, we should have an Academy Award themed broadcast.
No, I'd like us to give out our own awards. I'd like us to come up with our own designations and give out superlatives on an annual basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they don't have to be about movies. They could be just about...
Oh, exactly.
Political actors. Like, clearly, we know who the best actor is, hands down. That one, they don't even need nominees. We know who that is.
Hillary.
Right? No, that's accurate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Best actor? Hey, tune in next week, folks. We'll tell you who won Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Lizard Person.
Or not.
Best use of keeping their mask on. Until then, I'm Chris Smith, John Ross. Thanks as always.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you next time.